Hey everyone, Professor Michael Scanlon here. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday. Well, what day would that be named after? That doesn't sound like an astronomical object at all. Well, in English, it's named after the Norse deity of single combat. What Roman deity would be the deity of combat? How about Mars? And if we look at a Romance language like Spanish, the translation for Tuesday is Martes. And so we have Mars's Day. Today is named after Mars. Now, the problem with Mars is right now it's up during the day, so it's really hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off our daylight. If only it were that easy to turn daylight off and on, right? At least in our little area. And we see that Mars is um, close to Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in the night sky, or sorry, in the day sky. And I am looking tomorrow morning, if you check the date, Wednesday, at just after 8 in the morning. That's where Mars would be found. You wouldn't really see it because of the daylight. So, anyway, let's take a look and go to the red planet. Now, Mars is really red. It's red because of iron oxide dust all over its surface. That is rust. It's a very rocky planet. It did once have water on it. And there's a couple of cool features that I want to point out that are very famous. One of them is right there. It's Olympus Mons. It's the biggest volcano in the solar system. To give you an idea of its scale, the top of Olympus Mons sticks up above most of the Martian atmosphere, so it's really tall. And just in terms of how big it is, it's about as big as the whole state of Arizona. So one mountain about as big as as one of our states. In fact, if you were standing on Olympus Mons, you really wouldn't notice you were standing on a mountain. It's that big. It is a gigantic volcano. And then you have the Tharsis Montes, that's the Tharsis Mountains, which are volcanoes, but not quite as big as Olympus is. Another thing you have is the Valles Marineris, and this is a huge canyon that stretches for many, many, many miles across the surface of Mars. In fact, this canyon would stretch from California to Florida if it were in the US. Much, much bigger than the Grand Canyon. So we have on the same side of Mars two incredible regions. Now this whole region, let's see if I can highlight the whole region. I don't think it'll let me. But this whole region is the Tharsis Bulge, and it's actually a raised up region as opposed to this side of Mars, which is kind of a lower in elevation. A couple of other features of Mars are the polar ice caps. Now these are not necessarily water ice. In fact, they're mostly frozen carbon dioxide. You would know that as dry ice. Mars does have water on it, although most of it is now, or sorry, all of it is now below the surface, and it's still one of the big mysteries in astronomy as is where the water or what happened to the water on Mars. Mars does have two moons. They're named Phobos and Deimos. So here's a pretty cool link. Again, I will link this in the description in our Facebook page, our post, and our YouTube post. And this is again a NASA solar system exploration site. And we have Mars, and it shows you where some of the things have landed. It gives you Olympus Mons and Valles Marineris. And we can kind of take a cross section of Mars and see that it has a core, it has a mantle, crust, atmosphere, just basically the same thing. Here's a term for you. This is known as being differentiated. Planets tend to be differentiated. If it's layered, that's our technical term for that. Okay. Mars is geologically kind of dead. It's really small and really cooled off. There's not a whole lot going on Mars. As far as geology goes, the volcanoes are dead. A big question is where did its atmosphere go? Because in order for Mars to have had water, it had to have a much thicker atmosphere than it does today. So this is, again, another site that I highly recommend you take a look at to learn more about Mars. And so we can go, again, in depth as we saw with the moon on Moon Day, that is Monday. Mars is the most explored planet other than Earth as far as being on its surface. We've sent so many probes to Mars. Here again, you have an interactive globe of Mars that you can drag around and take a look at. All right. I want to take a look at by the numbers because I want to show you the size comparison between Mars and Earth. Now, if we take a look at something like Mars and Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, which we will see very soon, Mars is really small compared to Jupiter. It's still very small compared to Earth. If we look at it in terms of our smallest planet, Mercury is smaller than Mars. So Mars is the second smallest planet in our solar system. It is much smaller than Earth. What's really interesting about it, though, is that if we look right here in the center of your screen, equatorial inclination, right? It's got a very similar tilt to Earth does. It's not the exact same, but it's a very similar tilt to what Earth's axial tilt is, which means the seasons would be very similar on Mars and on Earth. Now, the year is going to be much, much longer. The atmosphere is much, much different. But in terms of just sheer tilt and seasons, Mars would have the same types of seasons given the opportunity as Earth does. Another thing that is really interesting about Mars, and that's not shown necessarily right here, I didn't see it anyway, in just my quick glance, Mars's rotational period is very close to Earth's. It's not quite 24 hours, but it's actually very, very close. We have been to Mars a lot, so you can check out the exploration tab. I wanted to show you the galleries tab really quickly and show you. I mean, we've just got so many pictures. We've been on the surface of Mars. We've got sunrises on Mars. We've got, I mean, just all kinds of stuff. Mars does have two moons, Phobos and Deimos. Um, there we go. Sorry. In the kind of center of your screen right there, you have wind flow on Mars, and then you have Odyssey's three views of Phobos and visible light. Mars has two moons. They're basically captured asteroids, and they are called Phobos and Deimos. Fear and panic, I think, is what Deimos means. Forgive me, I'm not up to snuff on my name origins. Beg your pardon. So that's Mars. It's been a source of interest for a long time. I mean, just a very insanely long time. People have been like looking at Mars and just wondering, is there life there? Could there be life there? Could life have started there? It's just a really interesting planet in and of its own right. Um, I hope you take the time to check this out. I hope you enjoyed Tuesday and take a look at who Q was and take a look at who Mars was and see how they correlate with one another. And then take a look at, oops, sorry. And then take a look at our friend Mars, the planet, and some really intriguing facts. Like, for example, dust storms. Mars is very prone to dust storms. In fact, you have some dust storms that are so big they cover the entire planet. Imagine that, a planet wide storm. So, thanks for tuning into this amazing planet. I hope to see you, or I hope you see me or hear me tomorrow when we look at Wednesday's planet. Wednesday. I'll let you think on that one. I'll see you later. Stay safe, everyone.